Jim Harbaugh is minus 200 to be the next coach of the Miami Dolphins. Like, are you guys more believing of this? Because last week I was the Raiders, and then that was longer it goes on. Then you get another coach. I'm like, okay, if you're a Michigan fan, you breathe a big sigh of relief. And then he interviews with Minnesota over the weekend. I'm looking at it as more likely that he's not the head coach of Michigan than I was last week, where I was like, sounds like a bunch of noise.
All right. Oh, you go first.
Shout out to, I can't name him, but because I think they're supposed to remain anonymous. My buddy writes those odds for some of those sites. Like, he literally is the guy creating them. And he is a smart dude. And I'm not saying he doesn't do his research in them, because he clearly does. But he's not somebody who I think has like insider info on who is going to be the next coach, right? The main purpose of those odds on the gambling sites to actually take money on that are to get, there's a couple media in college football, and we all know a couple of them, who will literally tweet out any press release. In fact, I've wanted to like create a fake company before and send them one just to see if I can get them to do it. So thus it creates free advertising for these offshore sports books. I don't take those things as gospel. Personally, like, they're not coming from somebody who doesn't know anything about the sport, but they're not like, I don't think they're sourced from agents and mega boosters and stuff.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I still don't think he's leaving Michigan. I think that, it first started, it was the Raiders, and then the Raiders didn't happen. It's like, okay, well, the Raiders isn't happening, and now all of a sudden the Vikings are requesting permission to interview him, and it's like, but the one thing that is kind of weird is, to me, like, we saw when the Miami job first came open, Stephen Ross was adamant saying, I'm not taking Jim Harbaugh away from Michigan because he doesn't want to hurt Michigan. He's a Michigan guy. But, like, have you heard anything about the Miami Dolphins head coaching search? Like, have they interviewed anybody?
I didn't know it was open. So
that's my point. Like you're seeing all these teams that have had head coaching openings in the NFL, and it's like they literally tweet every time they interview somebody. And then 1,000 NFL beat reporters then, instead of just retweeting that, have to say the Bears have interviewed this and the Texans have interviewed this guy. Like, I haven't heard anything about the Dolphins coaching search, which is the only thing that makes me think that there's even a hint of a possibility. But I still think that this is all just Jim trying to get some of that money back.
Minus 200?
That's just the market. The same way that Michigan's always overhyped for national title futures. Everybody's, you got to protect yourself in case you go, because we've seen, I'm not going to name the sports book, the Bears, like, there were odds on Matt Eberflus getting it at like plus like 13-1, and a bunch of people took it. And like, this sports book was being very slow to pay it out because I don't think they had planned on, it being Eberflus, based on the odds that they gave, even though it seemed like that was heading that way for a while here. So, yeah, I don't, like Bud said, I don't really put too much stock in those odds.
What's the max bet on those? I know we're not going to name the book and give the free advertising.
Aren't they low? I've always thought they were all low. Like, all of the like really promotional stuff. I mean, odds on a coaching search are silly, right?
Yeah, I don't think
no data that you are using. What?
I don't know what the max is, but I doubt it could have been much more than $100.
That's my thought too. So minus 200, you're laying 200 to win 100, and for every person they lose, like that they have to pay out on that bet, they're probably getting 3 or 4 first-time depositors who saw those odds on social media, decided to deposit and take a whack at it. We should share this bit from Coca in the private chat. It was on his podcast. So David Sampson said Stephen Ross was waiting for Harbaugh to interview for another job so that he can step in and get Harbaugh now that he's ready to leave Minnesota.
Michigan,
yeah, but
okay.
Coca
now ready to leave Michigan. Said Ross loves Michigan more than Miami. So basically, like, the owner of Ross is the Dolphins owner, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He went to Michigan
and GM too.
So he's okay with taking Harbaugh if Harbaugh was actually going to leave for Minnesota, but like wasn't going to plug him for Michigan otherwise.
Correct. That's the thought process down here in Miami, is that he wasn't going to pluck him from there. Michigan's in a great spot, but if Harbaugh is looking to leave, which that's the thing I can't figure out too. And there was some back and forth between Pete Thamel and Mike Florio, because Mike Florio said that Jim Harbaugh had interviewed with Minnesota. And then I think the ESPN article said expressed interest in interviewing. But like, if he's taking interviews, that to me is like all right, he's gone. Like, you start taking interviews, you got one foot out the door.
So who replaces Harbaugh?
Well, that's
Luke Fickell.
Wouldn't that be?
I think
great?
they go
Ohio
in-house.
State Lifer? Josh Gaddis gets a crack
Yeah.
at it.
Bill O'Brien. You guys want to know the Vegas odds on that?
Do you really think that they would go? Do you think Michigan would just promote the OC instead of going for Luke Fickell? Because
No, I think they'd go for Fickell. I don't know
Yeah.
if Fickell returns that call though. He's
yes,
such a-
he does. There's, I mean,
think
Luke
so?
Fickell,
You really buy into the
He's-
whole like I'm too Ohio State to take the Michigan job?
not at all. I think Michigan is one of the very few jobs. Like Fickell's been very selective. I think that there are a few jobs where he's been, these are the jobs I will leave Cincinnati for, and I got to think Michigan is on that list.
Who else is? We'll keep
Michigan,
our eyes on.
Ohio State.
Gaddis is only 35. That's a big job for him to step into if you
Mhm.
stayed with a coordinator. Mike Hart's 38. Like you're going to go with a Michigan man, like maybe follow those.
I've
I don't
heard
know.
that
At this
too,
point in the
but
game, though, like, do you just go with somebody who kind of elevate from within and get a very friendly contract so that you can exit it if it doesn't work out?
No,
Then you're sacrificing a year. You can't
Yeah.
do that.
Michigan State says no. Michigan State lost D'Antonio at the beginning of February, went and got Mel Tucker after Mel Tucker had just done 1 year at Colorado, and that's worked out really well for Michigan State. I think you got to say, like, maybe you do go get Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Sorry, Cyclones. I know making a coaching hire right now is going to be really tough, but
can Matt Campbell recruit there?
I don't know. That's the
He
thing.
does-
I mean,
Look, it is a different game finding those gems and trying to consistently win 8 games, 7 games at Iowa State, and then occasionally leveling up, versus playing the other game and needing to be in the race for the elite kids out there. That is a different skill set. It's not the same shit. Or sorry, but it's not the same.
But isn't the Michigan like OKG play a little bit different than trying to go run against Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, and the other schools that we're about to talk in our signing day storyline? Like, aren't you operating more in the 10 to 15 kind of range?
yeah, there's an OKG aspect to what Michigan does, but they still recruit highly talented players. So it's like there's kind of a blend to it, but they're not, they're not a let's get 3 stars and develop them into men. They're like, no, let's get 5 and 4 stars and develop them into NFL players.
They're
Right.
top 10 last 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.